Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wholesale Change, the webcast and podcast from Distribution Strategy Group, where we offer thought leadership for wholesale change agents like you. Because if you're on this call, on this show, on this podcast, you probably are a wholesale change agent. My name is Ian Heller with Distribution Strategy Group, and I'm delighted to be here today with my business partner, the glamorous doctor of distribution. You can tell glamorous by the flannel shirt. Jonathan Bine, PhD. Jonathan, how are you today, my friend?
Now that's marketing, Ian. Calling me glamorous.
There may be just a little bit of spin in that, but hey, I love you, man. So, I'm trying to make you feel good.
Back at you, bro, but you're not getting my bud.
Man, that is an old reference. You are just giving away your age. So for nearly 50 years, Epicor, who sponsors our show, thank you so much, Epicor. They've been a sponsor for a long time now. For nearly 50 years, Epicor has helped distributors stay ahead with flexible, powerful solutions designed to increase sales, streamline operations, and improve customer experience. Epicor's industry-leading ERP solutions are built specifically to meet the unique needs of wholesalers with everything needed to grow your sales, profits, and productivity while distancing yourself from your competition. Epicor is focused on the things that matter to you: work queues, PO variance queues, kitting, assembly and production orders, advanced inventory forecasting, VMI, and special project pricing. They build their software using industry best practices and 50 years of distribution experience. But Epicor solutions are far more than just tools for pick, pack, and ship. Fully cloud-based with a modern UI, Epicor offers complete, robust e-commerce solutions, powerful BI and analytics tools, modern API and EDI, value-added services, WMS, virtual assistants, and much more. You can learn more about how Epicor helps thousands of wholesalers succeed by visiting epicor.com. So we have a wonderful guest today, Stu, my friend. I'm going to let Jonathan kind of go through your background real quickly, or actually just do a quick introduction, and then we'll go through your background together. How's that?
Okay, let's take it from the top. I'd like to introduce Stu Tisdale, VP of Strategy and Commercial Excellence at ADI Global. Stu leads the development and deployment of strategic initiatives and commercial excellence throughout the Americas, EMEA, and India. He's responsible for enhancing ADI's commercial capabilities through digital transformation, also known as DX initiatives, in sales enablement, strategic pricing, and advanced analytics. We're going to be talking about DX, digital transformation, today with Stu, because he is the architect of some really terrific things that are happening at ADI. Full disclosure, by the way, ADI Global is a client of Distribution Strategy Group, Inc. Distribution Strategy Group, LLC, excuse me. So, Stu, welcome to the show.
That's great to be here. Ian and Jonathan, thanks for having me on.
So take us through your career. We were talking before the show. It appears you like to work with large distributors in Long Island. Take us from the bottom, starting with Henry Schein, and then building up to what you're doing today with ADI Global.
Sure. So I went to undergraduate university at Fordham University here in New York City, and I'd always intended to work at a big Wall Street bank, and somehow I ended up in wholesale distribution and have really enjoyed my career in the space. I started at Henry Schein, the worldwide leader in distribution for medical, dental, and veterinary supplies. Had a career there in marketing and product management, and then joined the ADI team around 2011, and progressed through a few different roles. Started in product management, ultimately led all of product management and marketing. And then for the last 3 to 4 years, I've been working with our senior executive team on the executive team here at ADI Global to organize and facilitate the process of strategic decision-making and really drive digital transformation across our global business.
It's an amazing story. If you would, tell us a little bit about who ADI is as part of Residio.
Sure. ADI is the leading wholesale distributor of security, fire protection, and other low voltage products globally. We're a $3 billion business in terms of revenues. We've grown our revenues for 10 consecutive years. We're very proud of that. And we're in business in 14 different countries. We're a global business. And what we do is we package up all of these smart home and smart building technologies and we make them available for sale to pro contractors that install and maintain and service smart home and smart building systems. We're a high touch distributor, and we have field sales, telesales, a strong digital shopping, both website and mobile app experience. And then we also integrate all of those various different sales channels together through our almost 200 stocking locations across the globe and 115 branches now in North America.
115. Wow, that's a big operation. So technically, you are an electrical distributor.
Yeah, the electrical, the traditional, electrical line of trade, I would say is our, closest cousin. We do operate in the low voltage technology space. So various different low voltage technologies from, physical security, such as video surveillance, fire detection, intrusion alarm systems, on over to audio visual technologies, and then even into data communications and infrastructure.
So Stu, something you need to know about Jonathan is that his mind is like a computer, so he has to categorize like hierarchies of things. So he sees the electrical distributors and you guys as a subset underneath.
If I can't put you in a box, it'll just be steam coming out of my head. I won't know what to do with myself. So now that I've got you in a box and your customers in a box, let's have a good discussion. So ADI has had a remarkable growth in top line revenue, but also in bottom line, and as has Residio, the parent company. Talk to us, if you could, about some of the initiatives that you're involved with in the digital transformation that are driving good things, that are driving real results for ADI.
Sure, happy to. I would first look at both sales productivity and sales effectiveness as really the primary objectives when you look at embracing digital technologies. And I would weight more towards sales effectiveness. I touched a little bit around my role as the chief strategy leader for the business, but one of the things we've done over the last several years is try to steward the decisions we make around digital technologies to help accelerate our growth initiatives. And we first looked at essentially, we would call it, as we call it, not non-value added work within our sales team. We have, as one example, and I can get into several, we around 8 to 10 quarters ago, we started an implementation of email to EDI technology, and we saw this opportunity just going out and visiting branches and talking to our people in the branches around how do customers interact with you. And what we found was a lot of volume was coming into the store, just over email. And so we've been on what I think is quite a remarkable global implementation of email to EDI technology that right now is almost around, we've peeled off around 10% of our global order volume, and essentially eliminated what we would say is more order taking activity, and with the strategy of repositioning our sales team's time to order making activities. And so we first started with productivity, and that has that's been what I see as a pretty remarkable implementation across 14 countries. Beyond that, analytics has formed the foundation of sales effectiveness. And we have invested in a business intelligence tool many years ago, have gone through several cycles of development. That's now a global platform. But our entire team business runs every single day on analytics. And we focused a lot on deploying analytics down to the store level, down to the individual salesperson level, ensuring they have the KPIs that our senior leaders are managing to. And now we're expanding analytics beyond just the 4 walls of the business. If you're an ADI supplier in North America, you get a daily BI dashboard that shows you a variety of different information that's interactive, shows you how your promotions are doing, shows you how key categories are performing. It's highly actionable for any leader or executive at our suppliers, and we intend to further iterate and innovate in that area, and there'll be more things coming soon.
So that's kind of interesting that sorry, Jonathan, that you're actually extending your analytics output to your suppliers, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, and we've
Yeah.
had that in place now for 8 or 10 quarters, and I can just tell you that that's just driving digital collaboration, shared goals, shared decision making with our supplier community. And I think it's a good example of using digital tools and digital technologies to just drive enhanced performance.
Yeah, we do want to encourage our readers, or excuse me, our audience, sorry, to ask questions. So feel free to submit questions with the Q&A button. And over to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, so Stu, on the sales effectiveness and the analytics, if you're, to the extent that you can share, what is it that your salespeople are able to do now differently that they were unable to do prior to analytics and CRM?
They have faster. They can move with more speed. They can be provided and digest insights with more speed. And in distribution, speed is everything. I mean, we're in a very fast-paced transactional business, and information and speed is important. We're all running from the same set of numbers. That's a little bit of a cliche, but that is very hard to actually get accomplished in a distributor that may have many legacy systems. And I think the foundation of our, what I would say, BI success has been, we had started with a almost 18-month project to ensure that we were getting the right information out of the ERP. It was being databased correctly. It could be queried. It was consistent. It was complete. And that right foundation has, I think, allowed us to move a lot quicker, because there's strong belief that the numbers make sense. They're the right numbers. We can all work from the same sheet of music. I would say one other thing that I believe is a best practice here at ADI is analytics is run in the business. It's not something that the IT department is responsible for providing business people. And we have situations like that in other parts of our company where analytics may be more skewed toward the IT area. Analytics is a business function at ADI. There's some IT support from a database perspective, but the business owns analytics. The analytics team is accountable to the business leader. And I think that integration has helped us very well.
It's a remarkable story. So when we think about the analytics, you've got CRM, right? You've got marketing automation feeding into CRM. So your sales reps can see what's coming in from marketing automation, right? What are the other things that you've got feeding in? Do you have I know we're doing some work with you on demand analytics. Is that connected yet to the CRM?
Sure. So, we've got a few different connection points into our CRM. CRM, I would just say, is a very powerful technology. You can do a lot of things with it. It's very easy to become overwhelmed. We have, in terms of CRM, been very focused on the use case around CRM or the use cases, and tried not to deviate from that. But yes, the tech stack is in some ways pretty logical. You've got marketing automation information going back and forth between your CRM. But more recently, we've implemented a omni-channel call center software, and now the hook points into what is taking place in our customer support centers has provided a whole new level of insight. And I'll just take you through one example. There's constant flow back and forth between those two systems. If you're calling into one of our call centers, you are prioritized as a customer based on some characteristics. And then there's an event-based survey that's deployed to you after the call. The survey is right from our CRM, then gets fed back into our CRM, back into the omnichannel software, which allows our managers in the contact center to immediately pull the recorded phone call of a poor survey. And so that level of digital integration, with CRM as sort of the go-between, is just we're going to continue to iterate on that here. And I see a lot of value in those types of things.
That is such a powerful story about the power of integration. In our experience, Ian, please weigh in, the number of CRM successes in distribution are few and far between.
Yeah, for a long time, I'd say it's about 50-50. I think people are learning not to try to do too much with them and not try to be too directive with them. try to make it more of an enabler. But as you were talking, Stu, one of the questions I had was, so you've got branches, but that's not where most of the phone calls are going. It sounds like, right? You've got call centers. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the breakdown of phone calls, I'm not prepared with that data, but there's a healthy degree of call volume to a centralized call center, and then also, into the local stores.
Okay, so there's some split. So you have both locations taking phone calls, and then you have branches which have like a counter service will call area, I assume, right? And then you've got sales reps, and then you've got e-commerce. So how do you think about coordinating the efforts of those organizations in terms of creating demand and servicing customers?
Sure. That offline to digital integration, in the call center example, I think is a good example. But, beyond that, it is a lot around making the analytics at the store level, having them have a strong understanding of what is happening in the digital channel. And that's done through a variety of different ways. But giving the sales team the insights around what is the customer shopping for, searching for, what have they ordered digitally and picked up locally, and vice versa. Those types of insights, which are mainly delivered through business intelligence, I think are good examples to point to. And then there's also just the customer experience, and how are you linking what a contractor can do in your digital shopping experience to how they interact locally with their preferred store branch representative. And a number of the things we've done online, I'll give you an example of CRM facilitating a really important process, is just requesting a quote. Our contractors and pros, they're installing during the day, and they're writing out their proposals and creating quotes for the next job, usually at night. Our stores are not open past 5 or 6 p.m. And so we have to provide them the opportunity to request a quote. And so when you do that on our website, that runs through CRM as the workflow management tool, where we can assign a service level, and we can understand exactly where that request for quote is, and ensure that the customer gets an answer within 24 hours. So that's a great example, I think, of integrating the digital channel with actually what happens at the store level with a salesperson.
To our listeners, this is really important because historically ADI has been a very strong branch-based organization, right? You deliver a lot of value through your branches. By the way, if you happen to be in a location that has an ADI branch, it's worth going into. They're well organized. They're well set up. And so now what I'm hearing from you is you're taking steps to say, great, let's make sure we're integrating online, offline, moving towards true omni-channel. Is there more that you can share with us on integration of branch with online?
Sure. The online to branch pickup side of our business, and any distributor out there with a website and stores should really be thinking about, how can I offer that experience, really frictionless experience for the contractor or the pro to order goods digitally, but then be able to pick them up self-service locally. And so one of the things that is growing exponentially in popularity is, ordering through the online portal, whether that's app, and then ordering directly to a locker at the local store, having a whole process that delivers notifications to the contractor around when the order is ready to go in and pick up, and the locker is available 24/7. So that I would try to, my recommendation would be to the website's 24/7, but are your stores and the ability to pick up product 24/7, having a really tight integration between ordering online and picking up locally is an area that I think is very important. Secondly, endless aisle. We've got an endless aisle experience in several branches, close to 50. And what that allows contractors to do when in the store is allows our salespeople to introduce the web experience by walking them over to an endless aisle kiosk, getting a contractor signed up for e-commerce purchasing. It also allows the contractor to perform certain account management and self-service tasks. Actually, while they're at the branch, something may come up where they would want to do that. We're seeing some really strong positive feedback around the endless aisle concept that's locally available within our branches.
So we do have a question here, and it's, I don't know how much this you want to share because some of it could be proprietary, Stu, but they're asking what data is being shared through your analytics service. You mentioned promotion status, effectiveness, but what else? And so that's all, to be clear, that's stuff that you share with your suppliers, I believe we talked about earlier. And then they're asking, what else are you sharing? And then are your customers paying for this service? Which I don't think your customers are getting this service. I think there's a misunderstanding here.
Yeah, I think the question, if I had to interpret the question, I think this is around, our delivering business intelligence to our suppliers on a daily basis. And so I would answer the question and say we're providing them everything that we can provide them, that we're comfortable providing them. There's obviously a roadmap to provide more, and we like to think of it as a community. We have suppliers that are asking for certain data points, and we want to be able to, include that. In terms of paying for a service like that, there's right now it's something we're doing for free, but we are, we're looking at the future possibilities of what's possible there, and so, we think this enhances the supplier relationship. It ensures that we're the first, distributor in the supplier's Rolodex in terms of who they want to work with. So we think there's really strong value in just the collaboration aspect of it. And so there's return. There's return that may not be easy to calculate, but there's return in other areas of our relationship with a supplier.
My experience, Stu, is that suppliers are starving for this kind of feedback. So although the way you described it almost sounds like you're holding them accountable, but the reality is they're going, thank you for the data, because, typically when they work with a distributor, they're funding, what we call trinkets and trash and golf tournaments, and they don't really know what they're getting out of it. But you're giving them data to actually have an understanding of what their investment in you is producing as a return. Is that how they treat it when you give them that information?
Absolutely. Our suppliers want to hold their sales teams accountable. They want to hold their rep firms accountable. They want to hold everyone in their business accountable, from supply chain to their sales and marketing teams. And how can they do that without data that's extremely timely, accurate, and comprehensive? And so they find a lot of value in this.
Now, go ahead, Jonathan.
Go ahead, Ian, please.
Well, what I was thinking about, and I know, we don't want to get into specific numbers, although, if people want to look at the financial statements, you guys have become more profitable over time. So without speaking to what you guys have done specifically, do you have recommendations to other distribution executives who are trying to improve profitability? I mean, how do you approach it? What are the key levers that you pull? What advice would you give someone over coffee or cocktails about how to go about improving profitability in a distribution firm?
Sure. Well, I'd first start with analytics and BI. That just has to be the foundation that is strong and is really woven into the way you do business and you run your business. So if you're not confident in your BI and analytics area, I would suggest starting there and investing there in the right way. Secondly, sales productivity and sales effectiveness. If we go back to the earlier example around email to EDI, there's a certain portion of hiring that's done in every distributor that's to serve demand. Demand is incoming, and we need to hire resources and invest to just serve that demand. And all the sales productivity and sales effectiveness technologies allow you to take that portion of investment that where you would have otherwise put towards serving demand and repurpose it towards creating demand. So I would encourage someone strongly to look at that, because that's will deliver operating expense leverage that you'll see in the bottom line. And then thirdly, and this builds on the recommendation around analytics. Every distributor's got billions of data points that they generate on a daily, weekly basis. And there's waste in every distributor, and analytics will help you uncover waste. But I would really be looking at AI-based and machine learning technologies that can, process large amounts of data and produce insights and learn. And we have actually implemented now 2 AI machine learning technologies that, from my standpoint, have delivered millions, if not tens of millions of dollars of return. And I would highly recommend really looking at applications that could address some of the areas in your business where you think there's waste, where you think there's an opportunity to do better, because these technologies, they're new, and we're in the early innings for distribution in terms of AI and ML, but we're a great use case for AI and ML because there's just so much data in our businesses, and just the slightest tweaks to processes can produce big returns and profits.
Now that's really interesting because, I think artificial intelligence has almost become a buzzword where, a lot of people think it's synonymous with advanced technology, and it's not, right? It's technology that learns to get smarter on its own over time. So are these technologies that you're putting in? I mean, because you made a really interesting distinction between technologies that are there to generate demand so that so that you are, or generate technologies that are there to serve demand so you can invest more in generating demand. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
And which of those where are you applying AI? Is it in handling demand? Is it in generating demand, or some of both?
That's a great question. It's in retaining demand and also generating new demand. And so, I'll give you a great example that I think applies to every distributor business I've worked in. Is you've got an account that, if you're looking at performance, they're growing 20, 30%. Everyone feels great about that account. We're winning. But beneath the surface, if you're selling hundreds of thousands of products, it's impossible for any one salesperson or even analytics team to really be uncovering the insights around, well, what categories are growing and what categories you may have lost the customer to another competitor. And so machine learning can crawl through all those transactions and produce patterns that just would have been completely unrecognizable by any management system, any salesperson, any analytics team. So that's where I think immediate application is really, and that's in a retaining demand scenario, but also in a generating new demand use case. It's very difficult for one salesperson who is managing one account to see what the other salesperson who's managing the other account is selling and buying, and there are relationships there around products they maybe should be buying that they're not buying, and machine learning can help uncover those and produce those insights to the salesperson.
In your experience, do those breakthrough technology applications come out of an IT department, or does the business recognize them first? Or, I mean, I guess it might depend on the organization and the people involved, but typically, are you, at least in your case, are you typically seeing those opportunities and bringing them to your IT department, or is the IT department seeing them and bringing them to you?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, the way it should work is the business people, whether you're a marketing leader, sales management leader, analytics leader, should be uncovering those technologies through learning, through networking, through knowing their industry. In our company, IT typically plays the role of, implementation and support, but the business, is charged with researching these, developing the use case, developing the business case, configuring, setting some of the knobs and dials around the system, around how it should work, testing it. And then most importantly, we're talking about technology, which is usually 20% of the game. 80% of the value in every technology we've implemented has been in the change management principles that we've applied in the business, and having great sales management that sees the value that some of these tools can generate and drives that. There's one observation I've had over the last 4 to 8 quarters. It has been that great sales management in a distributor that's undergoing the implementation of digital technologies is the key ingredient to getting the most value.
Well, so I have an idea about where you're going to get 10x return versus less or much less than 10x return. And I tend to think it is going to be on the customer facing side of things, whether it's creating demand or retaining demand as opposed to serving demand. It's not to say you shouldn't look for the waste and inefficiency that the exercise, the process that you've gone through. But in terms of getting a 10x return, it's going to probably be on the customer facing side of things. What do you think?
I agree. And I think I may have touched on that earlier, is that, we've got digital technologies that are driving productivity. We've got ones that are set up to drive effectiveness. I would always skew towards effectiveness as a much more important objective to drive.
Let's actually shift to efficiency from effectiveness, because you started it out with the email order automation. So that's part of a broader objective you have on touchless ordering. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And we, set out our objectives in our investor presentation earlier in the year around, what our goals are for total touchless ordering and revenue as a part of our total business. And we've made, we have a whole change management program behind this that's backed up with analytics. And we've made significant progress over, I want to say 10 quarters. At 10 quarters ago, around 20% of our total business was processed through touchless channels. Right now we're, even as of the last quarter, approaching 35, moving right past 35. We've got 40% of our business in our sites.
Wow.
And of course, that's during a time period of really strong growth for ADI. So we have put a huge organizational focus. It's one of the goals that is talked about more often than others in our business, is our drive to achieve a certain level of touchless ordering in our business, because we know that we need to free up our sales team to transition from largely order taking, in some instances order taking activities, to more demand generation, proactive behaviors, consultative sales behaviors. And in order to do that, we're going to need to drive revenue through the touchless channel.
Terrific. So just simple math, as you start to move towards 50% of your orders being touchless, the audience should know you're looking at a cost reduction of $6, maybe $8, $10, $12 per order. It's going to vary for your particular business. But if you do the math, that productivity benefit is probably 50 to 75 basis points of productivity improvement to profit. And that's significant, right? So when your touchless ordering is around 5 or 7 or 8% or 10, it's not such a big deal. But when you get to 50%, you're starting to free up huge amounts of time. And to your point, Stu, that time you're able to apply back to the demand creation and demand retention side of things. We have a particular question about the technology you're using for email order automation. Which is that? Can you share?
Sure. We are using Connexia, sales order automation technology, and might have touched on it earlier, but we've deployed that globally across 10, 12, I think around now 14 countries. And we've been a Connexium customer now for 2 to 3 years. And as you can see from the adoption, we're doing quite well.
And I'm curious what your customer experience is with the email order automation. Are they happy because they're getting acknowledgement sooner, fewer errors? Do you have any feedback from your customers?
We do. There is sometimes some work that needs to be done with a customer just to align around what fields mean and mapping. And so there's some back and forth. And when we've had the opportunity to explain the value proposition of what we're trying to do, which is to get them an order confirmation and acknowledgement much faster, to be always on 24/7, and to ultimately make less data entry keystroke errors, they just really seem to buy into that, especially on the always on 24/7 nature of it. When the pandemic struck last year and some of our stores were going offline, some of the top customers in those stores were able to get orders through and get orders shipped. They weren't waiting on the order to be entered. And so, we see it as an efficiency tool, and it also is a business continuity tool as well that has helped us.
So this is a case of what's good for the goose is good for the gander. That's great when you get the win internally, and it also makes your customers happier. What other initiatives are you looking at in DX over the next couple of years, if you can share at this point?
Sure. At a high level, we're going to continue to look at AI and machine learning technologies. Like I said, I think we're at the beginning stages of that in wholesale distribution. It's a great use case for that type of technology. We're going to continue to monitor the market and hopefully move forward with other implementations if we have the right use case. Secondly, CRM, and we're a Salesforce.com customer. It's a very, very powerful platform, but we're going to stay disciplined and continue to be very narrow about the use cases, but we'll expand those and we'll do that globally across our business. And then just in terms of analytics, I mentioned extending analytics beyond our borders to suppliers and then to customers. Those are objectives for us to look at in terms of how do we leverage the data that we have that's so valuable for the benefit of all of our stakeholders. So those are a few key areas we're going to continue to look at. And then just omni-channel is a cross-functional in itself. At its core is all cross-functional. The example I gave you around the call center and our omni-channel call center software and CRM and marketing automation and our digital website channels, all those things, I don't have the specific details, but we're just working every day to reduce friction in the buying experience, improve effectiveness with our sales team by integrating and passing data across those platforms to generate better insights, to ultimately guide us to better actions to take.
It's a phenomenal story. The keyword throughout this thread has been integration, right? And then enrichment. And so I think if you look at Salesforce, for example, the core functions of a CRM look pretty similar, whether it's Salesforce, Microsoft, Oracle, whichever, right? I mean, you've got contacts, you've got tasks, you've got opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the power of what Salesforce.com did that you are exploiting is using it as an integration platform. That was their big innovation. They created, I think it was called Force.com, which allows all the web services stuff to happen. And it sounds like you've been able to just bring a huge amount, but the right information to everybody who's using your CRM. Kudos.
Thank you. And one last thing I did want to mention around go forward thoughts and roadmap on the digital technology side is we're a little bit lucky in the sense that we're a global business. And so I've got team members in 7 to 8 different countries across Western Europe and North America and Mexico. And what that's allowed us to do in terms of rolling out these digital technologies is these countries become little laboratories of innovation. And I can tell you that we've taken best practices from our analytics team in the Czech Republic that's moved into our biggest business here in North America. We've taken best practices from our strategic pricing group and CRM team in the UK, and we've moved that across the pond into North America. So all these little implementations become places to generate innovation and best practices. And you have to have a management operating system that surfaces those, seeks to understand those, and then ultimately, drives those across your broader business.
Makes perfect sense.
So I have a question for you, and maybe this is as we start to wrap up here, Stu. Now, when you look at your background, you came out of marketing and sales. You're not a technologist by training. You didn't come out of that world. But much of the conversation that we've had today is about identifying technologies that improve productivity, improve grow sales, improve profitability. And you have apparently learned along the way and gotten to a very high level in a major corporation. What advice do you have for people who are earlier in their careers, perhaps, and they want to see your kind of success? Is it related to learning about technology? Is it being more open-minded about, or being a lifelong learner? I mean, what's the advice you give people when you're coaching them on their careers so that they can try to do what you've done with yours?
Well, thank you for the compliment. A couple things. Certainly pushing yourself to learn more. A lot of the technologies we implemented here at ADI, there was a long learning curve and learning process up until the point we even engaged a software vendor. So going out and reading white papers and we've talked to many other distributors about their success. We've of course engaged with firms like yourself in the pursuit of knowledge. So learning is a key behavior that I think is applicable in any executive role, but especially when you talk about these types of technologies. Secondly is gray zone leadership. And this is really what I tell my team members, is you step into the gray, when you see there's a business opportunity and it's not quite clear who has ownership of it in your company, step into the gray zone and wrap your arms around it and develop a use case, develop a business model, pitch it, and ultimately it can become yours. And a lot of the things that I talked about today were actually pretty classic gray zones within ADI 2 to 3 years ago. And myself and our team here, we saw the opportunity, and we were ultimately able to see it through. But these were gray zones that we stepped up into. So I think gray zone leadership and the ability for a young up and coming aspirational leader to find those opportunities is a piece of advice I would give.
Yeah, that's great. That's funny because I used to call them, be the one to volunteer to put out the burning platform, right? And so I think gray zone is actually better because it's not always a crisis, but it's not clear who owns it. The other thing I tell people is they complain, well, I don't really have a department. Okay, well, great. If you become an initiative leader and you have a cross-functional team, there's your department, and you can show what you can do with some resources, right?
That's correct.
So I took advantage of that early in my career. Anyway, well, I think we're going to wrap up now. Stu, thank you so much for being on this show. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. And for our podcast listeners, Stu's email is Stuart, that's Stuart, Stuart.Tisdale, Tisdale, at adiglobal.com, Stuart.Tisdale at adiglobal.com. We have a couple of upcoming sessions. On December 15th, we're doing another Wholesale Change episode. This one's on master distributors to marketplaces. We'll be discussing companies like Berkshire eSupply, Amazon Business, and Veris. We've got some content coming out about that. That's going to be a lively call, I would say, to say the least. On January 26th, please join us for part 1 of the 2022 State of E-commerce. That's brought to you by Optimizely. Of course, the Wholesale Change episodes are brought to you by Epicor. You can visit us at distributionstrategy.com. Click on events to sign up for any of these or to sign up for our newsletter. Jonathan, as always, it's been wonderful to work with you. Stu, thanks again for your time. We appreciate your generosity with your time, and we appreciate your business as well. To our listeners, thanks very much for attending. We appreciate it, and have a great couple of weeks until we talk to you. 1 week, I guess. Great week until we talk to you again. Bye now.
Take care.